Thank you for tuning in to Hacks and Hobbies with your host, Junaid. We're visited by our amazing guests coming from all walks of life who want to learn their story, their struggles, and their journey on how they got to where they are today. So stick around. Welcome back, hobby hackers. If you've ever felt frustrated with ad agencies, unsure if your marketing spend is actually working, or want to take control of your marketing strategies, this episode is for you. Today's guest, Joshua Ramsey, a Fractional Chief Marketing Officer, speaker, and author who's been in the marketing industry for over 20 years. He's executed more than 80,000 campaigns across the US and specializes in helping businesses cut costs while improving marketing performance. Joshua, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. Good to be here. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for coming on. Now, we connected through the podcast world, and I'm excited to get into the truth about working with ad agencies. What's the biggest mistake business owners make when working with agencies?
I think the biggest one is that there's not proper expectations set. So you go in and you're sold on what that agency's good at, not necessarily what you need. Mm-hmm. So too often the immediate impact is a business owner would expect the phone to just immediately start ringing and the leads are just flowing in, and agencies are selling you on that. But the steps to make that phone ring is a ramp time. Therefore, expectations are one and you get another, the frustration hits, and nothing ever seems to go well.
Man, I love that layout that you set up for people, because it's almost like people are expecting to sow the seed and have the fruit the next day. But that's not how nature works, and that's not how lead flows work either. You have to train, you have to understand who's the actual people that are going to be listening to this and all of that stuff that goes between that. So thanks for setting that expectation, making sure that we know what's missing and what people are doing. Now, you've been managing marketing teams and agencies for decades. What are some of the biggest red flags business owners should look for when hiring an ad agency?
I think it's walking into the relationship with that right expectation. So what we're talking about here on the first question, the first part of this podcast, is the expectation all the way through. I think where business owners ultimately fail, that they have to be aware of, is what is the real need. And you can't go as deep as, I just want to make money, I just want to sell something. It has to be a step-by-step process. And then understanding what an ad agency is meant to do. Again, I go back again and again. I don't want to sound like it was too redundant, but it is that expectation. It is that, what do you need, and identifying that first. If you wanted to take it a step further, let me take it a little bit down a different type of rabbit hole to answer the question. Too oftentimes we believe what we are doing is unique, and it's not. A roofer is a roofer. A general contractor, general remodeler is a general remodeler. They're the same as the next guy and the next guy, the next lady. They're all the same, you would think. But what happens is you get this emboldenment of yourself and feel like that you are something unique. So what you choose to do is take your name, throw it on the wall, throw it on the radio, website, Meta ads, Google ads, and think that everyone should engage with you because you seem and see yourself as wonderful, and you wonder, why does no one call you? Why are ads still dead? Why are you moving to your third or your fourth ad agency expecting a different output? And where you have to get back to is what's called the unique selling position. What makes you unique? And being a roofer doesn't make you unique. What makes you unique is what your narrative is to bring you to this place in life.
Yeah.
And why you started doing it, and helping people understand that story. And I think we were going to talk about my story, and this might be that segue. But as you understand your own story and you can explain that through great storytelling, then people start to latch on. That's when people want to work with you. They want to engage with you.
No, 100%. You're absolutely right. That unique selling proposition or your unique selling story is unique to you, right? We are individuals and there's 8 billion different stories in the world, but you're only going to be attracted to the ones that are sharing and the one that you resonate with. So how am I going to
That's
resonate to some one roofer versus the other? It's a story, it's a price point. There's so many different levels. Now, you've been managing marketing teams and agencies. Wait, I already asked that question. So many businesses just hand over their budget and hope for the best. And you talked about that. What's a better approach to managing an agency relationship?
So again, you set the proper expectations walking into an agency, but the management is really setting clear KPI, key point indicators. When you set the right KPIs, then your relationship can hold true and steady in the sense of this is agreed upon and we're not going to change it. There becomes a level of agility that you need to have. However, that agility should still be outlined by the KPIs. Let me give you a quick story.
Yeah.
A roofer came to me, and this roofer had a ad agency doing SEO for them, and the SEO that they did was essentially what's called off-page link building. When this roofer came to me, his frustration was, I've had this agency, they've worked for me for 6 months. They are the 5th or 6th or 7th agency that I've worked with,
Wow.
and I'm frustrated. He heard what I teach and he said, I want to hire you, Josh. Josh, come work for me and show me how to do this different. So when I stepped in, I learned and spent about 45 days, 60 days learning the process of what the agency was doing, learning the history of the company. Then I sat down with the agency and I said, hey, this is where we're at. We need this many leads coming in a month. Right now, we are here. We need to be over here. We have to basically double what you've been doing. The price point that the business owner was spending with the ad agency was extremely high, more than enough. Here's the problem. The agency locked the business owner into an agreement, and they were only going to do that. So when they were doing that strategy, they were doing a great job. So as a CMO, I look at that agency and I go, I would hire them again for what they were doing. They are top notch. I still refer people to them for what they do. The problem is the business owner got himself locked into a long-term contract with that ad agency, and the agency wasn't willing to be agile. So if I summarize that, the agency was driving traffic to the website and the website was ranking really well. The problem was the CRO was not working, the client retention optimization. What you look for with SEO is not just getting the traffic, but ultimately, what do we all want? Business. We want leads. What wasn't happening is that people were not staying on the website page and converting into an actual lead. Therefore, the traffic is up. The agency tells the owner, look at all this traffic. Look how much traffic's coming in. At the end of the day, what does the business owner want? He doesn't care about traffic. Because as a business owner, you're going, I don't care that you're sending people to my page. No one's calling me.
Yeah.
I'm frustrated. The agency didn't understand that. And once I cleared the air, made that clear, the agency then stood their ground and said, we're not going to change this agreement. So I explained to the agency, if you don't change this agreement, you will, without a shadow of a doubt, lose this client. And it's a good sized client. They said, we're not going to change it. Here we are now about 4 months later.
Wow.
That agency's out. We've brought in a new agency. We're actually achieving more and doing more, but we built it off of what that initial agency did. Because what that initial agency did help us, did get visibility. But when your bounce time and your engagement rate is about 20 seconds per visitor, that's really bad.
Yeah.
Really bad to spend 20 seconds on a website page. That's a little bit of how to deal with agencies and understanding the expectation and then being agile in how you make moves based on your KPIs and the vision of what you want to achieve.
I love when you share that the client brought you in, they learned what you were doing, and they're like, hey, I want you to work with me, work for me so that we can get better results. And as somebody who does marketing, Marketing isn't something that you can fully outsource because he's still involved in his business. So as a business owner, you need to stay in that driver's seat and make sure that you're going in the right direction. And as a marketing officer, chief marketing officer, you're almost like the navigator telling the business owner who's driving this rally car, and like, hey, we got to turn left up there. Make sure you pay attention to all of these signs. So I think it's really awesome what you do to make sure that they're getting the right leads, they're going to the right direction, they have the right journey going on. Now, how involved should a business owner actually be in their company's marketing strategy? You've worked with many in the past. Talk to me about that.
So the business owner being involved in the strategy, I believe that in the beginning, the CEO sets the vision. The CMO, the Chief Marketing Officer, is the one that executes and guides the PR, your public relations, and the visibility execution. Setting the right KPIs to be able to give the CEO the final detail of we did this and we achieved this. We spent money over here and we achieved this. This was the goal. This is where we met that mark. CEOs, why a CEO should bring in a CMO at that time is if they're spending more than 20% of their time on marketing or more, then at that point, 100% they should bring in a CMO. The other thing is some CEOs love marketing. So they are all about it. They know about it. And that's great. But at the same time, if they're not keeping the eye on the ball all the time and they're still having to be that CEO, executive officer, right? The top guy that manages everybody, the top lady that manages everybody, then they're not keeping their eye on it enough. And therefore things fall through the cracks. That's where a CMO is supposed to be that navigator, as you discussed, right? Is understanding this is what we need to do and never taking their eye off the ball and then holding everyone accountable on it. Because at some point, if you're growing a company, you can't be in every meeting. Quick story. I won't go through all of it, but there was a story I read once and it was really interesting where the CEO literally was so controlling that he held the keys to the vending machine. Now, some people don't even know what a vending machine is these days, but he was the guy that had a vending machine in the lobby and for Cokes and another one for the snacks. And he had the key. So every time it would break, they had to go find the CEO, take him out of a meeting or do whatever. He had to stop his day to go downstairs, unlock it, fix it, and then go back up to do whatever he was doing. At some point, you can't control it all. At some point, you have to be able to step back and trust key leaders and key executives to follow the vision, execute the vision, and report back. I think that's a hard transition, though, for a lot of business owners. But when they're willing and able to make that transition, that's when they grow.
100%, Josh. And you're absolutely right. When you give up control, when you trust others and delegate parts of the business that you only know so much of, and that's why it's important to hire experts that know the game, that know exactly what they're going to do. That's why people and businesses bring in experts. The reason why a homeowner will hire a plumber to fix a problem is because a homeowner can probably watch some videos and try to fix something, but a plumber is going to get it done in 15 minutes and out the door. And it's the time efficiency and the time savings and all of those things that business owners need these expertise in the space as well. Now, Josh, you wished that you got into flying airplanes before you got married. There's something cool about how pilots need a flight plan just like business owners need a marketing strategy. Do you see a connection there?
I would love to draw a connection because then I can have my wife watch this podcast and maybe I can convince her to let me go ahead and get my pilot's license. But again, you're right. A flight path, a marketing plan, a business plan, it all goes together, right? I think that's an easy conclusion to draw to say, look, this is what we're going to do. This is the gear switches. And unfortunately, and this is why my wife will not let me fly by myself, is at times things go wrong. But I think that's where fail safes come in.
Exactly.
You plan for the best and you plan for the worst and you hope for the best. I said that backwards. So you have to know if something falls off, how are we going to respond to it?
Yeah.
So one of the gifts that I believe God gave me was just the foreshadowing, the foresight to be able to know if we run a marketing plan and it doesn't work, at what point do we cut bait? I'll use one quick story on that same thing. I
Yeah.
walked into a business. They had printed up, I don't remember what it was somewhere around 10,000 postcards. They had the postcards sitting there and had already sent 10,000. When I looked at the postcard, we started talking about it, and I said, these are not going to work. And I'm going to
Mm.
paraphrase the story. But ultimately, he agreed with me. They weren't good. But his words to me, I'll never forget, because he said, I've already spent the money on these. I'm going to go ahead and send them. Even though the first 10,000 didn't work, maybe these will. And my response was, don't burn good money after bad. He had the postcards, I'd already paid for them, sitting there. But I said, you're better to use that as firewood than you are to spend the money on postage to mail them
Mm.
out. Because that money on postage that you're going to mail them out, we could use in this or this area. I gave him three
Yeah.
different options
Yeah.
of where we could take that dollar amount and invest it. And by the end of the day, he goes, you're right. We're not going to burn that good money. We're going to take that good money and invest it. And we had some really successful campaigns.
Nice.
But again, that's one of the many stories that I have of making a decision and knowing when to pull the plug, knowing, hey, it's time. We got to stop the madness, stop the chaos, and let's move in a new direction because it's not working.
I love that. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for sharing that story because it makes so much sense. When you know something didn't work, it's almost like if you try the same thing over and it's not working, that's the how did Einstein said that's the sign of insanity. You're doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results.
Yep. That's it. That's it.
Joshua, before we wrap up, let's have some fun with a few quick fire questions. Now, your favorite show is Highlander from the 90s. And if marketing agencies were immortals battling it out, what's the secret to surviving in the industry?
I feel like maybe I'm repetitive, but it is being agile. It's not just trying to push
Amen.
through the door if the door's not opening. It is find another way in. So being agile and being able to shift and grow and adapt to the market, adapt to the results that are happening or lack of, making shifts, that's going to be a big key.
Powerful, powerful. I love that because when you're agile, you're able to. I mean, our bodies are agile. Like we're not always walking stiffly, and we're able to take the punches and still stay standing. In fact, with the new Boston Robotics, I don't know if you remember, but in the early days, they would create these robots, and then they would try to push them, and then they're stable, and they'll take the push and stay standing. And that's being agile. That's having the agility. And so as human beings, we are agile, so why not our businesses be agile as well?
Yeah.
All right. Next up, what's one marketing tactic that worked in 2001 but is completely outdated today?
I'm going to sound, I don't know how this is going to come across, but I'm going to say it. You can't be in the yellow pages anymore, right? The telephone book is dead.
Yes.
But I will be somewhat serious and say this. The yellow pages, the phone book that I used to sit on as a kid at my grandma's house so I could reach the table,
Yeah.
while that's dead, the practicality and the application is not. And here's what I mean by that. Anyone that hears this, look up and learn about what's called citations. There are actually hundreds of websites online that have a very good ranking. And if you will go list your business on every one of those citation type websites, you actually can improve your overall web presence. Even if the citation company and website is a lower domain authority score, it will actually boost you because they're pointing in what Google searches is the whole World Wide Web. So think about this. Google looks at your reputation across all platforms. So if you're listed in every business directory that is in existence, Google will see it. If Google sees it, Google sees you as credible. They put one more checkbox next to your name saying credible. And that's what you look for. So while Yellow Pages and the old school big fat book is dead, the citation strategy is not. You just have to understand what the modern age is.
I love that because it's almost like more and more people are referring you like, hey, this is the person to talk to about this thing. This is the person to talk to if you want to have this thing. That's why referral is so powerful. Like I'm part of different communities, and I know exactly which community to go to ask, hey, I'm looking for this kind of guy. And they're like, hey, go talk to this guy. And then other people are like, oh, go talk to this guy. So again, it's that recommendation model coming together, but through stuff that actually works. Because as the evolution of AI, more and more sites are going to be like, oh my God, where do we get information from? Let's check the index. Let's see who's got a higher domain authority. We're going to go to that one as opposed to the other one. So thank you so much for that tip. All right, last one. If you could use only one marketing channel for the rest of your life, what would it be? This might be a hard one.
Yes and no. If you can afford it, then what I would say is a platform that's called programmatic. Programmatic is actually right now the most innovative strategy. There's a lot to it. I'll keep it pretty short and sweet for our sake of time. But programmatic, really what it does is it feeds the information based on the cookies of the user. All of us today go to websites and every now and then we see it and say, do you accept cookies? Whether you click it or not, you're accepting them. You can reject some. However, end of the day, we have all opted in because we use technology. If you're hearing this podcast, unless you're on a old school radio, you're opted in to receiving and sharing cookies. What happens is Google out there-ish, you can call it Google, but the web is tracking you and feeding cookies to each other. So all this information goes. In short, what programmatic does is it reads the pattern in the search history of each user and builds a profile on each of us. And each of us fall into certain types of buckets. Think about it this way. If you study history, then you're going to get a lot of information fed you about history. If you study tech, you get tech. If you're a business owner, you get business owner. If you're in HR, you get HR. On it goes, right? If you're a motorcycle enthusiast or an airplane enthusiast, you're fed that information.
Yeah.
What programmatic does is it reads your search patterns, and then programmatic is basically syncing up your ad platforms in whatever ways that you, being the motorcycle enthusiast, and the advertisements that sell the helmets or gear for motorcycles on programmatic can feed directly to you, giving you, the user, what you want. But programmatic can serve it up in many different platforms of display to video to other to feed that information. So a lot of an answer there for you, but that's the answer.
Powerful. I cannot wait to check out the 2 different tools that you've shared. Again, really powerful, very eye-opening, Joshua. I'm so excited to go even more deeper because we're just getting started. Because in the next episode, we're going to be diving into exactly how business owners can cut costs, scale smarter, and optimize their marketing efforts without overspending on agencies. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So guys, if you're ready to take full control of your marketing strategy and make better decisions, this next episode is a must listen. Totally forgot. Joshua, what's one costly marketing mistake we'll cover in the next episode?
One costly marketing mistake. There's a lot of them, but I would say not setting the right KPIs tied to the budget and what the margin should be for your cost per acquisition, and then figuring out that baseline.
Perfect. We're going to learn more about that in the next episode. All right, hobby hackers, make sure to hit follow so you don't miss it. If you're just joining us, go back and listen to this episode first to learn how to manage ad agencies effectively. See you in the next one. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this episode on Hacks and Hobbies. We absolutely appreciate your contribution. You can find additional notes on hacksandhobbies.com. Please share the podcast with your friends and tell them what you learned about our guest today.